which is his hobby that he will take forward as his job upon graduation. Do a lot of work in urbanization and energy and policy. But like a typical SEPA graduate, he doesn't have just one job. He's also vice president of the International Public Policy Institute, a United Nations funded NGO that works on a lot of Millennium Development Goals, which this school is proud and part and parcel of developing in the first place. He's been a teaching assistant to very challenging elective courses in the second-year program. He's worked on slums in Mumbai, India. He's been in Ghana looking at turning waste into energy. And as a 3-year Peace Corps veteran, he spent time teaching English in rural Sichuan, China. He likes backgammon and badminton, and perhaps other sports that begin with B. But he likes riding his bike around the city with his friends, which is something I suspect he will spend a lot more time doing once he gets the heck out of this place tonight. With that, ladies and gentlemen, your graduation speaker, Mr. G. Winston Grad.
And thank you all for being here tonight on this wonderful and meaningful ceremony. And this is just wonderful to be here with you. Nobel Peace Prize winner and former president of South Africa, Nelson Mandela, once declared, if you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you speak to him in his language, that goes to his heart. So remembering Dr. Mandela's words, I would like to humbly attempt to say the following in my classmates' languages. 晚上好，朋友们，欢迎你们来到我们的 SEPA 毕业典礼。Buenos tardes, amigos. Bienvenidos a nuestra graduación de SEPA. 안녕하세요, 여러분. SEPA 졸업식에 오신 가수 환영합니다. Bonsoir, mes amis. Bienvenue à notre cérémonie de remise des diplômes de SEPA. 구두 장포 자루디주 SEPA luz jampa lexo tugay. Merhabanya da SEPA fiha fir taraji SEPA. Dobry вечер, приятеля. Виташка на нашей церемонии SEPA. And good evening, friends, and welcome to our SEPA graduation. Dean Coatsworth, Dean Simmons, Dean McIntyre, Dean Edgars, members of the faculty, distinguished guests, families and friends, and my dear fellow SEPA graduates, it is an honor to have the privilege to speak before you tonight on the 15th floor, where it all started 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago to this date, in January 2009, as fresh, excited young students. And Dean Simmons also started her SEPA journey with us at the same time, coming from Harvard, because she heard how cool we SEPA students are. So you had to come join us. And this is why us J-Termer students call Dean Simmons our mama bear, because she's always there to make sure we're on the right path and taking care of our concerns, getting our flu shots, and always there to give a hug. So thank you, Dean Simmons, for your immeasurable support, for being so patient with my constant emailing. At SEPA, like all my classmates here who have a sense of purpose to make our communities and world a better place, I've linked my passions and interests for international cooperation and leadership with my passion for the urban landscape, trying to make cities a healthy and better place to live for the future generations. I've witnessed firsthand the effects of urbanization in China as a Peace Corps volunteer, the change of social and landscape dynamics. For the first time in human history, more than half of the world's population are living in urban areas around the world. And by 2025, that's still in our lifetime, population forecasters predict that 2/3 of the world's population will reside in cities. So obviously this is a time to really focus on urban management, because after all, it starts on a local and city level to start tackling the environmental challenges of today. And these challenges we face will call for effective leadership skills, requiring a new vision to establish well-functioning cities and communities throughout the world. And speaking of leadership, tonight we're sitting in a very special room because this is named after and dedicated to Dag Hammarskjöld, the second Secretary General of the United Nations. And it is also, he's considered by John F. Kennedy to be the greatest statesman of our century. So it is most fitting that we gather here tonight in this room to embark on becoming humbly great statesmen and stateswomen for our nations and for the world. And our work at SIPA has certainly been dedicated to the principles of leadership and international cooperation that Hammarskjöld embodied. This room is also very special because if we were here 2 years ago, excuse me, I'm having a dry mouth. If we were here 2 years ago looking out these windows, we would have seen on January 15th, US Airways Flight 1549 landing safely in the Hudson River. This happened the same time during our orientation. Well, we weren't up here at the same time, but it happened the same week of our orientation. Within 3 minutes, Captain Sullenberger used all of his training and to guide the 747 aircraft that lost all of its engine power to safe landing a few blocks away, saving the lives of 155 people on board. This miraculous landing is something that's been very meaningful to me these past 2 years. And I truly believe that Captain Sullenberger couldn't have successfully landed that plane without years of skill training and maintaining a meditative mind. And Sullenberger described his skills in an interview with Katie Couric, saying, "One way of looking at this might be that for 42 years, I've been making small, regular deposits in this bank of experience, education, and training. And on January 15th, the balance was sufficient so that I could make a very large withdrawal." So as young world leaders tonight sitting before me, we can all learn from Sullenberger's leadership. Sullenberger exercised leadership skills in a time of split-second change, a skill he trained many years for. And this is a leadership skill we SIPA students have been and shall continue to cultivate as we go out and to work for the world's people. Professor John Lawrence, our professor of management here at SIPA, said in class that we should prepare our toolbox of experience, a toolbox to remain open and available in this time of urgent need, requiring calm, collective responses to save this planet. Sullenberger was definitely using his toolbox to save 155 people in 3 minutes. Paul Thurman, Professor Paul Thurman, it's wonderful that you speak to us tonight. For most of us graduating, we can all say our first SIPA hurdle was in Paul's class. It was common for us to be up until about 2 or 3 a.m. in Lehman Library with our stats groups, so we can deliver a 250-page document on how we were going to use statistics to solve the world's problems. And fascinatingly enough, after all the regressions, scattering data, residuals, mean, median, modes, my group found that our hypothesis was indeed correct. Overwhelmingly, quality of life and the happiness index are on average much higher in democratic countries than non-democratic countries. So therefore, this requires us to help create happiness with our brothers and sisters of the underdeveloped world. So Professor Thurman, thank you very much for your guidance in making stats somewhat less painful with your enthusiasm for teaching us. Thank you. And I also want to take this moment just to go down SIPA memory lane, talking about our experiences for the past 2 years together with this fascinating group of performers. Our nest is here in this building. It's down way below in the depths of this building. We basically lived in Lehman Library downstairs, and especially during midterms and finals, we were down there till 4 a.m. with some of us being locked out and having to call Camp to Safety to let us out. And we also learned clever techniques on sneaking in food so we can survive in this nest. And for many of us tonight, we also started the semester by building spirit together among us with Friday brunches at Simone's apartment and cooking and sharing together and then complaining how we had to rush back to SIPA, to stats lab, and go back to stats recitation. Economics, another big hurdle we had. Our dear Paola, Andrea, Geratana, Helios, all made it, our beloved economics mafia, as we'd call them. And I still never figured out why all of our econ professors come from Italy. I just don't know. It's in the water, I don't know. But we thank you, our econ mafia, to be a wonderful part of our experience here. And the Alice's Cafe on the 6th floor, where we always congregated, and they supplied us with a large amount of caffeine to get us through our writing papers, problem sets, and creating cheat sheets for our exams. They're legal cheat sheets. And our multicultural nights and events. SIPA is really a special place because it's one of the most diverse schools in the world. And we come from all different backgrounds: Bhutan, China, Russia, Nigeria, Korea, Slovakia, Arizona. Yet, we all came to SIPA for the same cause: to grow as leaders, to make positive changes for the world and her people. And during our prep talk, Dean Simmons, 2 years ago on the 15th floor here, told us that we were the selected 14% of this applicant pool. And while this is an amazing achievement, I know really what makes us so special, and I have a diagram to represent that. I truly believe, and also remembering Dean Simmons' threats of plagiarism, I also gave it the source. This is the human perspectives graph, and there's 2 dimensions, space and time. And every human concern is located somewhere on this graph. Most people, especially in this economic times, all of us are concerned with next week and supplying enough for the family. Some people are concerned next week what's happening in their own country. But as you see, the further it goes in time and the further it goes in space to the world in their children's lifetime, there's only 3 lonely dots out here. And this I consider to be SIPA students. These are the SIPA students. And they're not 3 lonely dots because we are concerned with the world issues and our children's lifetime, the sustainability of the world. And I don't feel like they're lonely because, as Margaret Mead says, never doubt that a small group can make a changes the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has. So my hopes for my fellow SIPA graduates is that each of us cultivates our leadership potential so that communities can grow effectively together and achieve change. As young world leaders, we require a new vision and a new set of skills. And I hope you will all carry your toolbox with you at all times, because $100,000 later, we now have many new SIPA tools to use. On a personal note, I would also like to thank my parents, Glenn and Delane, and my family for supporting me with love, financial help, and non-stop encouragement. And thank you to all of our mentors in our lives. My special mentor is my adopted grandmother, Dr. Annalie Heiges, Columbia class of '89, who was a great source of inspiration, a visitor of several of my classes, and a mentor of leadership. Thank you very much. Appreciate your work. And thank you to all of our SIPA family and friends who came across the world or down the street to be with us. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. I would like to leave you tonight with Secretary Hammarskjöld's final words. And there's a picture of him behind us. His final words to his United Nations staff in New York before he was killed in a plane crash in the Congo, where he pursued efforts to encourage national reconciliation and to end foreign interference. On September 8, 1961, before leaving on a peace mission to the Congo, Hammarskjöld addressed the staff to the United Nations, saying, "It is false pride to register and to boast to the world about the importance of one's work. But it is false humility, and finally, just as destructive, not to recognize with gratitude that one's work has a sense. Let us avoid the second fallacy as carefully as the first. And let us work in the conviction that our work has a meaning beyond the narrow individual one and has meant something for humanity." These words gently remind me of how privileged it is to work with talented people for the common goal of stewarding our planet. So I thank you, my fellow graduates, for a memorable 2 years, and may we all be reminded that the great call to serve our world and bring reconciliation to the lives around us and beyond our national borders and for generations to come. Go well into the world, and I wish you also very well. Gongxi, felicidades, Chakahanida, felicitaton, Tashidelit, Mabruk, Graduatem, congratulations.